A young samurai sat outside the training hall every morning. He wasn't lazy. He wanted to train. He admired the warriors inside. He imagined becoming one of them. He thought about the skills he would learn and the discipline he would build. Yet every morning, he remained where he was, sitting, watching, waiting. He told himself he would begin tomorrow. Tomorrow, when he felt more prepared. Tomorrow, when his mind felt clearer. Tomorrow, when he was finally ready. But tomorrow kept moving. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. One morning, his master stopped beside him and asked a simple question. "Why do you not enter?" The young apprentice lowered his eyes. "I am waiting until I feel ready." The master smiled. Not with disappointment, not with anger, but with understanding. Then he said something the apprentice never forgot. "You believe readiness comes before action, but readiness comes from action." Those words changed the course of his life, and they might explain something about yours. Because every day millions of people sit outside their own training halls. Not literal halls. The book they want to write, the business they want to start, the exercise routine they keep postponing, the conversation they know they need to have, the dream they continue to carry from one year into the next. They are not lazy, they care deeply. In fact, sometimes they care so much that they become trapped in thinking instead of doing. They plan, research, prepare, organize, and promise themselves they will begin soon. Yet somehow, they never walk through the door. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Because what if procrastination is not a problem of discipline? What if it is not a problem of motivation? What if the real reason you keep delaying important things is something far deeper and far more human? Ancient Japanese wisdom offers an answer. Modern psychology quietly agrees. And together, they reveal a surprising truth. The cure for procrastination is not forcing yourself harder. It is understanding why your mind resists action in the first place. And once you understand that, something begins to change. Not overnight, not through willpower, but through a simple shift that makes action feel lighter than avoidance. By the end of this video, you may discover that the person you've been fighting is not laziness. It is fear wearing a different face. And the Japanese cure for it is far simpler than most people imagine. Chapter 1. The hidden cost of waiting. Most people think procrastination costs them time. A delayed project, a missed workout, an unfinished goal, something that can always be done tomorrow. At first, this seems harmless. After all, the task still exists. The opportunity might still be there. Nothing appears lost. But something much more important is slowly disappearing. Imagine a person who sits down every evening with the same promise. Tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow they will start writing. Tomorrow they will begin exercising. Tomorrow they will finally work on the thing that matters most. The promise feels sincere. In that moment, they truly mean it. Yet when tomorrow arrives, something happens. The energy is not there. The timing does not feel right. A small distraction appears, and the task is postponed again. Then the cycle repeats. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. The unfinished goal remains exactly where it was. But the real damage is not the unfinished goal. The real damage is what happens inside. Every time you make a promise to yourself and do not keep it, a small crack forms in self-trust. Not self-confidence, self-trust. The quiet belief that your actions will follow your intentions. Over time, the mind begins to notice. You say you will start. You do not start. You say you will change. Nothing changes. Eventually, a dangerous thought appears. Maybe I am just this kind of person. This is why procrastination feels so heavy. It is not because of the task itself. It is because each delay slowly changes the way you see yourself. In the samurai tradition, there was a principle within Bushido that valued decisive action. Not because warriors never felt fear, but because hesitation, repeated often enough, weakens character. A sword left unused gathers rust. Not all at once, a little at a time. The human spirit works in a similar way. Each act of avoidance may seem small, yet together they shape identity. This is why the hidden cost of procrastination is not lost productivity. It is the gradual loss of trust in your own word. And once that trust begins to fade, even simple actions can feel surprisingly difficult. But this raises an important question. If procrastination hurts us so much, why does the mind keep choosing it in the first place? Chapter 2. The real reason you procrastinate. The answer is surprisingly simple. You procrastinate because, in that moment, procrastination feels better than action. Consider someone sitting in front of a laptop, staring at an email they need to send. The email is important. It could create an opportunity. It could solve a problem. It might even change their future. Yet they keep delaying it. Not because writing the email is difficult. The difficult part is what the email makes them feel. Maybe it brings uncertainty. Maybe it creates fear of rejection. Maybe it exposes them to judgment. The task itself is small. The emotion attached to it feels large. And this is where many people misunderstand procrastination. They think they are avoiding work. In reality, they are avoiding a feeling. Modern psychology has discovered that the brain is constantly trying to protect us from discomfort. When a task creates stress, embarrassment, doubt, or fear of failure, the brain looks for relief, and procrastination provides that relief immediately. The moment you postpone the task, the uncomfortable feeling temporarily disappears. For a few minutes, or a few hours, you feel better. That is the hidden reward. Not productivity, not progress. Relief. This is why intelligent people often procrastinate more than they expect. They are not lacking knowledge. They are managing emotions without realizing it. Zen philosophy offers an interesting perspective here. Before trying to change anything, Zen encourages observation. Not judgment, observation. A Zen teacher might ask, "What exactly are you running from?" Not what task, what feeling. That question changes everything. Because when you look carefully, you may discover that procrastination is not evidence of weakness. It is evidence of resistance. Resistance to uncertainty. Resistance to imperfection. Resistance to the possibility that things may not go exactly as planned. And once you see that, something important happens. The struggle becomes less personal. You stop saying, "I am lazy." You start saying, "I am uncomfortable." Those are very different things. One attacks your identity. The other reveals a temporary experience. You are not broken. You are not lacking discipline. You are experiencing a normal human response to emotional discomfort. The real challenge is not eliminating that discomfort. The real challenge is learning how to move while it is still present. And that raises another question. If discomfort is normal, why do so many people spend their lives waiting for motivation before they act? Chapter 3. The Trap of Motivation. The young samurai listened carefully to his master's lesson. He understood that fear and discomfort were part of the problem. Yet he still found himself waiting for the right mood, waiting for confidence, waiting for a surge of energy that would finally push him through the training hall doors. One morning, after another delay, he asked his master a question. "When will I feel ready to begin?" The old master paused. Then he replied, "Perhaps never." At first, the answer sounded discouraging, but it contained a truth that many people spend years trying to understand. Most of us have been taught that motivation comes first. We imagine that successful people wake up inspired, that disciplined people feel eager before they act, that progress begins with a powerful emotional spark. So we wait. We wait for motivation to arrive. And while we wait, life quietly moves forward without us. The samurai master's life looked very different. Some mornings he felt strong. Some mornings he felt tired. Some mornings he felt focused. Some mornings he did not. Yet he trained anyway, not because he ignored his feelings, but because he did not place his feelings in charge. This reflects a deeper aspect of Bushido. The warrior's path was built on duty, not mood. A samurai did not ask, "Do I feel like training today?" He asked, "Is this the path I have chosen?" And once that answer was clear, the action followed. Modern psychology has discovered something surprisingly similar. We often believe motivation creates action, but in many cases, the opposite is true. Action creates motivation. Think about a time when you finally started something you had been avoiding. The beginning probably felt difficult. But after a few minutes, something shifted. Your mind became more engaged. The resistance became smaller. The task no longer seemed impossible. This happens because the brain responds to movement. Once action begins, uncertainty decreases. Progress becomes visible, and motivation often appears afterward, not before. This is why waiting for motivation can become a trap. You are expecting a feeling that is often created by the very action you are postponing. The young apprentice eventually realized this. His problem was not a lack of inspiration. His problem was believing inspiration had to come first. And perhaps that belief has been quietly holding many of us back as well. If motivation is not the doorway to action, then what is? What simple approach allows ordinary people to move forward, even when motivation never arrives? Chapter 4. The Japanese Cure, Kaizen. The answer can be found in a simple Japanese principle that has transformed lives for generations. Kaizen. The word means continuous improvement through small steps. Not dramatic change, not heroic effort, not forcing yourself into a completely different person overnight. Just small progress, repeated consistently. At first, this idea may sound almost too simple. After all, most people believe meaningful change requires big action, a complete life reset, a perfect plan, a surge of determination. Yet these large goals often create the very resistance we are trying to overcome. Imagine telling yourself that tomorrow you must write an entire chapter, exercise for an hour, completely reorganize your life. The brain hears a demand, it sees effort, it anticipates discomfort, and resistance immediately appears. This is where Kaizen takes a different path. Instead of asking for a chapter, it asks for one sentence. Instead of demanding an hour of exercise, it asks for 1 minute. Instead of requiring a complete transformation, it asks for a single step. The action becomes so small that the mind has little reason to resist. Modern psychology helps explain why this works. When a task feels large, the brain treats it as a threat. Not a physical threat, but an emotional one. A threat to comfort, a threat to certainty, a threat to energy. But when the task becomes tiny, that threat begins to disappear. The nervous system relaxes. Resistance decreases. Starting becomes easier, and starting is often the hardest part. The young samurai eventually learned this lesson from his master. He expected a complicated technique, a secret discipline ritual, a powerful mindset exercise. Instead, the master told him something surprisingly ordinary. Train a little today, not perfectly, not endlessly, just a little. The apprentice followed the instruction. A short practice became another, then another. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. And over time, the person who struggled to begin became someone who trained naturally. The transformation did not come from one great effort. It came from many small ones. This is the hidden power of Kaizen. Small actions do more than create progress. They create evidence. Evidence that you are capable. Evidence that you can keep promises to yourself. Evidence that change is already happening. And once that evidence begins to grow, something remarkable happens. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to become disciplined. You start becoming someone who simply acts. But there is still one final lesson. If small actions are the key, what is the simplest way to begin when resistance appears again tomorrow? Chapter 5. The 1-minute samurai principle. The moment when resistance felt strongest. Seeing this, the master gave him one final instruction. Tomorrow, train for 1 minute. The apprentice looked confused. 1 minute? Surely a warrior needed more discipline than that. Surely mastery required something greater. But the master simply nodded. 1 minute, nothing more. The next morning, the apprentice did exactly that. He entered the training hall, practiced briefly, then stopped. The following day, he returned. Again, only 1 minute. Then another day, and another. Something unexpected began to happen. The hardest part was never the training itself. The hardest part was crossing the threshold, walking through the door, beginning. Once he started, continuing often felt natural. This reflects a principle that modern psychology understands very well. Resistance is usually strongest before action, not during it. The mind imagines difficulty. It predicts discomfort. It creates stories about how hard something will be. But those stories are often larger than reality. The moment action begins, the imagination loses some of its power. Reality takes over. Movement replaces thinking. Progress replaces anticipation. This is why the 1-minute principle is so effective. It does not try to conquer the entire mountain. It simply takes the first step. And often, the first step is enough. In Japanese thought, there is a concept called mushin. It is often translated as no mind, not an empty mind, a mind free from endless hesitation. A state where action flows naturally without constant internal debate. Many people believe they need perfect clarity before they move. Mushin suggests something different. Move first. Allow clarity to emerge through movement. This is the practical lesson you can use today. Not tomorrow, today. Choose the task you have been avoiding, then reduce it to 1 minute. 1 minute of writing, 1 minute of exercise, 1 minute of studying, 1 minute of progress. Do not focus on finishing. Do not focus on achieving. Focus only on beginning. Because every time you begin, you weaken resistance. And every time you weaken resistance, you strengthen a new identity. An identity built not on motivation, but on action. And this leads to the deepest transformation of all. How does a person stop trying to become disciplined and start seeing themselves as someone who naturally takes action? Chapter 6. Becoming the person who acts. Over time, something remarkable happened to the young samurai. He stopped asking himself how he felt before training. He stopped searching for motivation. He stopped waiting for the perfect moment. Instead, he simply trained. Not every session was impressive. Not every day felt productive. But he continued. And without noticing it, his identity began to change. This is the deepest lesson hidden inside procrastination. The goal is not merely to complete tasks. The goal is to become a different kind of person. Many people spend years trying to feel confident before they act. They believe confidence is the starting point, so they wait, they prepare, they think, and they hope that one day confidence will arrive. Meanwhile, another person takes a different path. They act while feeling uncertain. They begin before they feel ready. They take small steps consistently, and with every action, they collect evidence. Evidence that they can follow through. Evidence that they can keep promises to themselves. Evidence that they are capable of growth. Psychology calls this identity-based behavior. The brain pays attention to what you repeatedly do. Then it quietly updates its view of who you are. Not based on intentions, based on evidence. This is why consistent action is so powerful. Every small action becomes a vote for a new identity. A person who writes regularly becomes a writer. A person who trains consistently becomes someone who trains. The identity grows from the behavior, not the other way around. Japanese philosophy offers a beautiful concept called shoshin, the beginner's mind. It means approaching each day without the burden of perfection, without demanding mastery, without expecting certainty, simply showing up again, learning again, beginning again. The young apprentice eventually understood this. He was no longer trying to become disciplined. He no longer saw discipline as a distant destination. He had become someone who trained, one small action at a time. And perhaps the same transformation is available to you. Not through force, not through endless motivation, but through the quiet repetition of small actions. Because the moment you stop asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming through this action?" everything begins to change. And when that shift happens, procrastination is no longer a battle against yourself. It becomes an opportunity to practice the person you wish to become. Final lesson. The young samurai spent years searching for the secret of discipline. At first, he thought it was motivation. Then he thought it was confidence. Then he thought it was willpower. But in the end, the lesson was much simpler. Discipline was not something he found. It was something he practiced. One small action at a time. And perhaps that is the lesson waiting for all of us. You do not need to become a different person overnight. You do not need to force yourself into constant motivation. You do not need to win a battle against your mind every morning. The real solution to procrastination is quieter than that. Reduce the resistance. Take the smallest possible step. Repeat. Again and again. Because procrastination is not defeated by becoming stronger than your fear. It is defeated by making action easier than avoidance. The moment you stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect plan, or the perfect time, something shifts. Life begins moving again, not in giant leaps, but in small, steady steps. And those steps eventually become a path toward trust, a path toward discipline, a path toward becoming someone who acts before feeling ready. So before you leave, take a moment to reflect. What is one task you have been postponing that you can start for just 1 minute today? Share it in the comments. Sometimes a small commitment spoken out loud becomes the first step toward real change. And if you enjoy exploring Japanese wisdom, Zen psychology, and practical lessons for building a calmer, stronger mind, consider subscribing and joining us on the next journey. Until then, remember this: you are not waiting for motivation. You are practicing identity, and every small action you take today is shaping the person you become tomorrow. Stay present. Keep practicing, because transformation lives in presence and practice.